I'm extremely delighted to welcome British Public Relations Specialist and former Director of Communications in Downing Street, Katie Perrior. How are you feeling after the split from Orlando Bloom, Katie? You all right with that?
Perrior, Jeremy. But it's good to see you this morning. How are you?
I'm all right, my darling, and thank you so much for coming on. Christian always talks so highly of you, and I'm delighted to have you on the show. So much to talk about, such seeming madness. Let's start with that important moment this afternoon, 2 o'clock. I think most people, whatever side one is on about this debate, see this as quite a seminal moment. I mean, it is pretty clear if you read what the KC representing the Home Office says, that the priority for Yvette Cooper's department is somehow with the rights of asylum seekers outweighing those of concerns of locals. And I've sat and listened and watched people say this is the far right, but we know, do we not, Katie, that this started with mothers concerned about the safety of their teenage daughters, not far right thugs. There will always be people that get involved, but I think this is a massive moment for this country, don't you?
Well, it really is. And it's not just a moment for Britain, it's a moment that the whole of Europe is looking at this result because, of course, there will be other countries that are facing the same problems and looking at how they're going to tackle them. The government, who not many people have sympathy for, but are absolutely stuck between a rock and a hard place because that will not be their public message that they will want people listening to on your radio show this morning. It will just be the only thing the lawyers can hide behind in order to find somewhere to house these people. Not that anyone at home gives a toss about that because, quite frankly, they just want it dealt with in their local area, up and down Britain. So this is a really important moment this afternoon.
I fail to understand. I'm going to repeat something to you, Katie, that so many I've done to everybody this morning because it was said to me last week and I think it really, really resonated with me. Somebody tweeted or sent a message to me and it basically said, when the silent majority realise their voice can be heard, whatever the colour of a government, that government's in trouble. I feel like you're not going to get away anymore saying, these are all far-right thugs, right? They're this, they're that, they're the other. These are families and communities, and I think you're right, the government is in trouble. I mean, this astonishing story on the front of the Sun newspaper this morning, another wonderful exclusive by Tom Godfrey. I mean, it's laughable when you read this story, but the truth of the story is real fury. Because migrants who've already failed the migration system and are ready to be deported are being held in this Heathrow Immigration Removal Centre. And up until last night, there was £160,000 worth of salaries being paid for people to come and teach them hairdressing, dyeing and cutting, creatively minding painting tutors, and people would teach them how to hold balloon parties. These are people who are about to be sent home, who have failed the system. As of last night, because of the Sun's story, Katie, Home Office Minister Seema Malhotra said the department had asked for the roles to be scrapped.
This is the nightmare type of thing I used to wake up to on a weekly basis in number 10 Downing Street. You would have a clue that this stuff was going on. A third-party provider, an independent company that has a long, really expensive contract with the government to look after these people until you can do something else with them, especially if they have known criminals and they need to be deported from the country as soon as possible. And I would sit in my office and think, how the hell has this happened and how the hell does it happen on your watch? And you would spend 80% of your day not doing things that really progress the country, but trying to stop this madness happening and trying to make sure that it stops as soon as possible. So again, the government will be waking up to a story that possibly they had no idea was going on, but needs
when you say that and you're trying to, as a government, you're trying to explain that to people, they would say there's just so much going on. Now, the Sun does its work and does it brilliantly, but people will absolutely and naturally look at that and go, this is ridiculous. I'm going to work, I'm queuing up, and my council tax is going up, my taxes are going up, my electricity prices, energy prices, food's going up. Everybody else seems to be being treated better than me that comes here illegally. Seema Malhotra, we'll get rid of it. What about due diligence? What about people in any department in government actually going through all these things? Or am I being unfair there? Is it too large?
You are not being unfair, and it is almost an impossible job to manage. But the point is that people don't really have to be accountable for this because, yeah, I work in the private sector. I run my own company. I'm one of many people in Britain that's self-employed. And if I make screw-ups at work, I get fired by my client. And that is it. I can't put food on my kids' table. I can't buy the things I want to buy in life. I can't go on nice holidays or whatever it might be. It seems to be that you can make these kind of decisions in government, you can run these kind of mad schemes, and there are no penalties for doing so, apart from the fact that, you know, the Secretary of State might get fired eventually, or indeed that government might be voted out of office. The actual people making these decisions on the ground, they seem to get promoted, or they seem to get bonuses as a result of some of the mad stuff.
It's really weird, isn't it? Because when Mike started doing, not Morning Glory, but Here and Julia and all of them, before I arrived, and people were talking about common sense, and now we hear Donald Trump uses it as the inauguration speech, politicians are using it left, right and centre. But it is that. There can be no common sense in any way to say, these people are illegal, they're waiting to go home, let's spend 160 grand teaching them how to blow up balloons. It's almost farcical. It's almost farcical. And going back to what you said, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult this afternoon, a difficult watch for many, because when this Epping judgment is made, I don't think there will be any winners or losers. I don't think it's a situation that's going to go away. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. I was saying to Mike the other day, 10 years ago, you couldn't even say immigration without being called a racist. Now, the truth of the matter is, it is front and centre to people's minds, and no government, no politician is going to get away unless they're prepared to face what I think is a huge problem. Let's talk about government, if you don't mind. So am I allowed to ask, Katie, who was the Prime Minister when you were in 10 Downing Street?
So I worked for Theresa May until she called the election, and then I decided that after 10 to 12 months inside government, it drove me insane, Jeremy. I get much more done on the outside than I ever did inside. And as I say, I spent most of my time trying to stop crazy stuff happening, rather than actually, you know, getting forward in doing the things that we needed to do. And it is ridiculously hard to do, and it is the fact that these departments are almost, you know, too big, and then they make massive mistakes on a daily, on an hourly basis. And of course, if you're not prepared to be bold, if you go into government and you don't really have a plan for governing, and you're not prepared to be bold when you get there, guess what? Nigel Farage is chomping at the bit to do that for you. And so if this is not a wake-up call to the government about being bold, being more radical, stop tinkering around the edges.
Do what you say you're going to do. Be brave enough to stand up and not pretend to be white. Fairness. Try and not be whiter than white. Be flawed, make mistakes, take the people on a journey, lay out a plan, fail, cock up, have good days, have bad days, but treat people, treat your electorate not like a number, not like a statistic, not like a bunch of idiots, because they've woken up. I want to ask you, as a public relations expert, I love this. We're gonna run through this. So just one word answers are fine. Angela Rayner, front of most of the newspapers this morning. You'll have seen the pictures earlier in the week of our Ange, just back from Ethiopia, in a blow-up doll. Did I just say that? Blow-up dinky. Maybe she's in. I've no idea. With a tattoo and a Lambrusco outside a brand new £800,000 third house. This is in Hove. Lots of arguments this morning that she dodged £40,000 worth of stamp duty. Many people on today saying this is a big story. Not great PR, is it? Your expert view of this.
Comes at the worst time for the government. They are talking about absolutely ruining their vote base in the middle classes by pumping up property taxes in the forthcoming budget in a department where Angela Rayner is responsible for housing. Yeah. It's not great timing. It's not a great look. And, you know, it makes me wonder why these purchases and these things can't be done once they've left government. Why, when you are right in the heart of government, would you think it was a good idea to do something like this? I don't think it's been a great week for her.
Mike called her the Minister for Housing herself, which I think will go down in the annals of history. This morning, Ed Miliband, that horrendous human being, is admitted to paying thousands of pounds for Islamophobia training for his staff within the Net Zero office, which is costing us billions and makes no difference. Would you be prepared to take on a PR role with Ed Miliband? I would have thought that was nigh on an impossible job, but I might be missing the point.
It's not just an impossible job. Those projects around the country, they're desperate to get off the ground. Some of those that I work with are, you know, in the slow lane. So even the things that Ed Miliband wants to do are not moving quick enough in this government. So actually they need to focus on getting the energy projects, getting the amount of investment that's queuing up, ready to spend in Britain on all kinds of different schemes, ready to go. are kind of sitting in the in tray right now, gathering dust. So this department needs to focus on getting that money into Britain, getting that investment in more jobs, and less on that kind of stuff.
I think Starmer needs to employ you straight away. I mean, the other thing we've got today is front of the Mail. The head of Asda has basically said, Alan Leighton, head of Asda, has said that Rachel Thieves, sorry, Richard III, she's an economist, not. Apparently she is taxing everything, and he urges her to stop it because he sees this country financially about to sink. And there's a lot to be said, is there not, for the view that Labour came to power talking about growth and working families and all that, but actually an eye on small businesses and taxation being their only policy is really sounding like a major concern. There were newspaper articles this week, Katie, saying that she might well have to go cap in hand to the IMF, and we're back where we were in the late 70s. What's your view on that?
It's disastrous, and she really is cornered at this forthcoming budget. She's got a problem with inflation. She's got a problem with debt repayments. That £1 in every 10 in Britain goes to our loans, basically. So you can never seem to be able to pay that off. Food prices, as people at home will be able to tell you about, don't seem to be coming down in the way that we were promised post-COVID. Energy prices have gone up again. We really need.
Well, that's because of net zero, isn't it?
We really need to have a plan and see a plan for how the hell we're going to get out of this pickle. And what the business community, who were wined and dined massively before the general election and told that it was going to be a pro-business, pro-investment, pro-growth government, have spent the last year scratching their heads going, I don't see any of that. And for us, I mean, in the hospitality sector, the job losses in Britain, which of course you don't notice because they're not all in one place. If they were, they would fill football stadiums because they're in villages and towns across the country, is enormous because of the national insurance rises on part-time workers, on people that flex their working around studying or carers or other responsibilities they might have. So some sectors in Britain are really being hit really hard. There is no wiggle room for more tax rises. That if you raise taxes on business, you end up raising taxes on the consumer.
I got called right-wing by John Rentoul from The Independent this morning because I said the following thing. I'm old enough, much older than you, to remember the late 70s when Labour Party were in power, and it became patently obvious that if a union said, I want a 30% pay rise, they got it until the country was skint. In my mind, the Labour Party, which I genuinely, by the way, at the end of the Tory rule, I was so disappointed and disaffected, and I'm actually quite patriotic and I wanted it to work. But essentially, we have a Chancellor and a Prime Minister that have got one policy, which is to tax the rich. People are leaving this country, successful people in droves. Where's that money going? Not to the Exchequer. We seem to be paying for people who don't pay in whilst negating the positive things for people who do pay their stamp. And it strikes me that at the end of the day, we will end up skint as we did last time, because their only plan is if you've made any money, we're going to screw you into the ground. And that's not the way that you create growth. And so the reason I bring up Angela Rayner about her look, and the reason I bring up Rachel Reeves, is the two things they promised: growth and a care for working families. To me, that's gone in 12 months, genuinely gone in 12 months, in the public's consciousness.
Well, the problem here, you're mixing two things. Well, first of all, fairness. People feel that this is an unfair country, that they are absolutely striving. They are often holding down two jobs. They are often trying their best for their children and for their elderly parents. They can't afford the property. They can't afford the things in life that their parents had many years ago. So generational unfairness is kicking in this country, and that's a really hard thing to unpick. But what you've hit the nail on the head, Jeremy, in terms of aspiration. I run a business. I employ 40 people. Would I do it again tomorrow and start again? No, because I don't believe this country, and I don't believe this country for some time, under a Conservative government as well as a Labour government, has rewarded people for risk. I believe they tax the life out of people for risk, for ambition, for aspiration, for doing things where, maybe they've never done before, doing things for the first time. Nobody in my family ran a business before I decided to start one up. I was the first person in my family to go to university. It's, where is the reward for that?
Absolutely, and I think the word
I turn, I'm taxed another way.
Absolutely. And what if you take aspiration away, and this is my real gripe with the Labour Party, they want everybody to earn the same and fine, and I'm not against equality, but if you say to people you can't aspire to succeed in a different sphere to a greater degree. Because when people do, they pay more tax and they set up businesses and they employ people. Katie, before we let you go, we know you work for Theresa May within Director of Communications in Downing Street. We know you set up a PR company. In the last hour, I want you to pin back your luggles and watch this. Starmer has tweeted this video on the smuggling gangs. This is in the last few minutes. Have a watch.
Want to know how we're controlling our borders? Then watch this. We're working with our international allies to smash people smuggling gangs for good. We're giving law enforcement new powers to criminalise those who endanger their lives at sea. We're making sure every business carries out right-to-work checks, ending the exploitation of illegal labour. Our plan is working. Since July last year, we've returned over 35,000 people with no right to be here. Hundreds of boats and engines have been seized, and illegal working rates are up by 50%.
I don't mean to be rude, Katie Perrior, public relations specialist. Was that the local work experience? The sound was awful, the quality was appalling. The bloke sounded like he was reading traffic and travel on this station. What the hell's going on? That's number 10 Downing Street. It's dreadful.
I was trying to work out if I've missed the trick and if that's a voice I don't recognise, and maybe there's someone really important that I've completely forgotten about, but I don't recognise it and I don't understand quite what they were doing with this video. It's the first time I've seen it, so I'd like to watch it several times before making a real judgment on it. But if your comms is not credible, if it is not believable, if you cannot take people with you on your journey, you are really vomiting into thin air. You're not really moving the dial. And I watched that and I think to myself, you know, I actually want this government to succeed. Like you, Jeremy, you said before, I've got young children. I want them to have really successful lives in this country. I want, you know, I have goodwill towards this government, and I really wanted to help it work and deliver the growth the nation needs. But when I look at films like that, I think to myself, who do you think is going to be won over by that kind of communication?
Couldn't agree more. What an absolute... I can't believe I've never spoken to you, and an absolute pleasure, and I so appreciate your time this morning. I know you're busy. Christian said you were fantastic, and we really, really appreciate your time. Katie Perrior, Public Relations Specialist and former Director of Communications for Theresa May in Downing Street. Great to have her on.